In the 1950s, a psychologist built two fake mothers out of wire and cloth, took baby monkeys away from their real mothers, and locked them in cages to find out what love actually is. What he discovered reshaped how we raise children. What he did to find it out is a story most people never hear. This is Harlow's monkey experiment, and it's usually taught as one of psychology's most heartwarming discoveries. The truth underneath it is far more complicated. At the time, the dominant theory of attachment was almost mechanical. Psychologists believed babies loved their mothers simply because mothers provided food. It was called cupboard love, the idea that affection was just a byproduct of who filled your stomach. Harlow, a psychologist at the University of Wisconsin, thought that explanation was too thin, and he decided to test it in the most literal way imaginable. He took newborn rhesus monkeys away from their biological mothers almost immediately after birth. In their place, he built two surrogate mothers. One was a bare wire frame, cold and mechanical, fitted with a baby bottle so it could provide milk. The other was made of soft terry cloth, warm to the touch, but offered no food at all. If cupboard love were true, the babies should have bonded with whichever mother fed them. That's not what happened. Regardless of which surrogate held the bottle, the infant monkeys spent nearly all of their time clinging to the soft cloth mother, sometimes 17 or 18 hours a day. They would only leave her to make quick trips to the wire mother when they were hungry, feed just long enough to be full, and then rush straight back to wrap themselves around the cloth. When Harlow placed a frightening object in the cage, like a mechanical toy, the babies didn't run to whichever mother had fed them. They ran to the soft one, clutched her, and only then worked up the courage to look at what had scared them. Food wasn't the thing driving attachment. Touch was. Warmth was. Something psychologists at the time didn't even have a proper name for yet. Contact comfort. The finding landed at exactly the right moment. A psychiatrist named John Bowlby had been arguing against enormous resistance that a child's bond with a caregiver was a fundamental need in itself, not something borrowed from feeding. Harlow's monkeys gave Bowlby's theory the hard evidence it had been missing. Together, this research helped dismantle decades of thinking about how children should be raised. Hospitals that once discouraged parents from holding sick infants, believing touch was unnecessary or even unsanitary, began rethinking that policy. Orphanages that had been run like efficient feeding stations began to understand why so many of their children, physically healthy but starved of touch, were failing to thrive. That's the version of the story that usually gets told. A brilliant, slightly eccentric scientist proved that love isn't about who feeds you, it's about who holds you. Neat, warm, and inspiring. Here's the part almost nobody mentions. Harlow didn't stop there. Having shown that infant monkeys needed contact comfort to develop normally, Harlow then spent years designing experiments that stripped that comfort away entirely to see exactly how much damage he could measure. He raised some monkeys with only a wire mother, no cloth at all. He raised others in total isolation, no mother of any kind, no other monkeys, nothing but bare walls for months at a time. Monkeys that survived this isolation didn't grow into anxious but functional adults. Many rocked in place obsessively, bit and clawed at their own bodies, and were incapable of any normal social interaction for the rest of their lives. When some of these monkeys later became mothers themselves, several neglected or physically attacked their own infants, having never learned anything resembling nurturing behavior in the first place. Harlow gave some of these devices names that tell you exactly how he understood what he'd built. One isolation chamber where monkeys were lowered alone into a dark, cone-shaped enclosure for weeks at a time, he called the Pit of Despair. The uncomfortable truth is that Harlow's most famous, most humane-sounding discovery that love is about comfort, not just sustenance, was proven using experiments that denied that exact comfort to hundreds of animals, then documented the psychological wreckage that followed. He wasn't simply observing what monkeys needed. He was engineering its total absence and measuring how completely a mind could come apart without it. Which raises the more uncomfortable question at the center of this story. The finding that changed how we treat children, that touch and warmth are not optional extras, but core biological needs, only exists because someone was willing to systematically withhold those needs from creatures capable of suffering exactly the way that theory predicted they would. Modern research ethics boards would never approve most of Harlow's later work today. Even some of his own students later said the isolation studies went too far, that the point had already been proven with the cloth and wire mothers alone, and that everything after that was less about answering a question and more about a researcher chasing the edges of what suffering could reveal. So the next time you hear Harlow's monkey experiment cited as proof that love matters more than food, it's worth remembering the full shape of that discovery, not just the baby monkey wrapped around a soft cloth mother, comforted and safe, but also the pit of despair built by the same hands to prove exactly how much that comfort was worth by taking it completely away. Some truths about what we need turn out to be inseparable from the story of what it cost to prove them.